3, 2, 1 HTTP Basics. An HTTP message is any request from a client to a server, or any response from a server to a client. The formats of the request and response messages are similar and are in plain English. Table 3. 1 lists the parts of an HTTP message. Table 3. 1 the parts of an HTTP message. All the lines end with CRLF, that is, ASCII values, 13 carriage return and 10 line feed. Let's now look at the individual structures of the request and response messages. 3. 2. The structure of an HTTP request. An HTTP message sent by a client to a server is called an HTTP request. The initial line for an HTTP request has 3 parts, separated by spaces. A method name, the local path of the requested resource URI, the version of HTTP being used. A typical request line is GET. Reports. Sales. Index. HTML HTTP. 1. Here, GET is the method name. Report. Sales. Index. HTML is the resource URI, and HTTP. 1 is the HTTP version of the request. The method name specifies the action that the client is requesting the server to perform. HTTP 1 requests can have only one of the following 3 methods: get, head, or post. HTTP 1 adds 5 more: put, options, delete, trace, and connect. GET. The HTTP get method is used to retrieve a resource. It means get the resource identified by the CURI. The resource is usually a passive resource. A GET request may be used for an active resource if there are few or no parameters to be passed. If parameters are required, they are passed by appending a query string to the URI. For example, Figure 3.2 illustrates the initial request line for passing John as a user. The part after the question mark is called the query string. It consists of parameter name value pairs separated by an ampersand and, as in name 1 equal value 1 and name 2 equal value 2 and in name m equal value m. In the example in Figure 3.2, user is the parameter name and John is the value. Figure 3.2 an initial request line using GET and a query string. Head. An HTTP head request is used to retrieve the meta information about a resource. Therefore, the response for a head request contains only the header. The structure of a head request is exactly the same as that of a GET request. Head is commonly used to check the time when the resource was last modified on the server before sending it to the client. A head request can save a lot of bandwidth, especially if the resource is very big, since the actual resource would not have to be sent if the client already had the latest version. Post. A post request is used to send data to the server in order to be processed. It means post the data to the active resource identified by the CURI. The block of data is sent in the message body. Usually, to describe this message body, extra lines are present in the header, such as content type and content length. HTML pages use post to submit HTML form data. Figure 3 shows an example of an HTTP post request generated by a typical form submission. Figure 3 a post request is generated by a form submission. The value of content type is application X. Form URL encoded, and the value of content length is the length of the URL encoded form data. Observe the data line of the request in Figure 3. In post, the parameters are sent in the message body, unlike in GET, in which they are a part of the request URI. Put. A put request is used to add a resource to the server. It means, put the data sent in the message body and associate it with the given request URI. For example, when we put a local file named sample HTML to the server Michaelum.com using the URI http Michaelum.com files. Example. HTML, the file becomes a resource on that server and is associated with the URI http Michaelum.com Files. Example. HTML. The name of the file sample. HTML on the client machine is irrelevant on the server. This request is mainly used to publish files on the server. Note there is a subtle difference between a post and a put request. Post means we are sending some data to a resource for processing. On the other hand, a put request means we are sending some data that we want to be associated with a URI. If you want to learn more about HTTP, read the specification at w3.org. Protocols. RFC 2616. RFC 2616. 3. 2. 3. The structure of an HTTP response. An HTTP message sent by a server to a client is called an HTTP response. The initial line of an HTTP response is called the status line. It has 3 parts, separated by spaces. The HTTP version, a response status code that tells the result of the request, and an English phrase describing the status code. HTTP defines many status codes. Common ones that you may have noticed are 404 and 500. Here are 2 examples of a status line that could be sent in the response. HTTP 1.404 not found. HTTP 1.500 internal error. When the browser receives a status code that implies a problem, it displays an appropriate message to the user. If some data is associated with a response, headers like content type and content length that describe the data may also be present. A typical HTTP response looks like this. HTTP 1.200 OK date, Tuesday, September 1st, 2004 23. 59 GMT content type. Text. HTML content length. 52. HTML, body, H1. Hello, John. H1, body, HTML. 3. Summary. A web application is a collection of web components that perform specific tasks and allow the users to access business logic via their browsers. In this chapter, we introduce the basic concepts of HTTP, the Hypertext Transfer Protocol. We examine the structure of the HTTP request, including GET, HEAD, POST, and PUT, as well as the structure of the HTTP response.